Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond BMR. Of course, I'm your host, Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob. Joining me in Studio B from Missouri, the lovely Krista from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. If you have not subscribed to the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, please do so. Please do so. They're on like 3 days a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Check them on out. If you're new here, also subscribe to Bigfoot Mission Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch on YouTube, Paranormal Paul on YouTube, Donnie Cho Says Stuff on YouTube, and Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World. Had to get that out of the way. We got a great show for you this evening. Thanks to everybody for coming in. If this is your first time here, the super chat's open. It's a great way to help support everything we do around here. You can also become a BMR pirate. Join today. Become a pirate. You get a picture of me and a bandana next to your name in the chat room. That's what you get. That's what you get. Thanks for all the members. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget, turn on the alert bells, you guys. We're on 7 days a week across all of our platforms. And I don't bother to put out the schedules because you guys forget, and it's a mouthful, and it takes 20 minutes because of our growth. So turn on the alert bell. You will not miss a single show. So thanks for that. We're also on podcasts, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. Go check that out if you would. That's awesome. And yeah, so I think that really covers all the marketing here or the advertising. Outside of this, everybody, as I pull it up right quick for you all, I got so much to scroll through. Here we go. Of course, my books are still on Amazon. They're not going anywhere. Bigfoot Mystery Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters. Book 1 has been out over a year. My second book's been out for a little over 2 months. Book 2, excuse me. Please type Bigfoot Michigan Rob in the Amazon browser. Leave a review for those that bought it and those that have bought it. Thank you ever so much. And again, don't forget to subscribe. Book 2, the link is pinned up top in chat. You can find the links on my YouTube profile. Or again, type in Bigfoot Michigan Rob on Amazon. Thanks so much. With that being said, I'm going to bring up Krista.
Hey.
Hey, what's happening?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just Tuesday night, woohoo, show night.
We're doing a little woo tonight, I think. Well, I got to tell you, I'm getting old. Today, I'm a hot mess today. We were talking backstage.
Yeah, you're a hot mess every day. Just saying.
Well, okay, thanks for that. I suppose. I got my hot pink on.
You do.
This Texas Front Porch shirt with the Blondes and Booze on the back. Little pinkish orange bandana. But then I also realized pink is kind of cool to sport because, of course, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. So I'm in support of that, of course, for the many women and some men too, right, Krista? So
right.
I'm a big advocate and supporter of that. I donate to that once in October, what I can, in support of that.
Absolutely.
In support of that.
Absolutely. Just want to people that are saying hi to me. Hello, my phone is dead and it's charging, so I can't chat. So I apologize, but hello to everybody.
Yeah, I usually type out my hellos as well, and I'll get to you guys. So I will say hello to everybody in chat. Love it when you come in, and also the people that don't participate in chat. You're a valued audience and participants as well. Because we get way more to watch the show that don't come on in chat, and you're just as valuable and you're most appreciated by myself, by Krista, by Brandy, Tex, all of us across the board. You guys do really help drive our shows. So again, if you're new, please subscribe. The alert bell. And speaking back about me being a hot mess, I got to tell you, it seems like I always bitch about the weather in Michigan. And fall, I think fall started a month ago. I could be wrong, right? Yeah.
Right.
And the grass is still growing and the bushes, I went out today and I attacked all the bushes surrounding my house and in the backyard. Got out and I just started trimming them down. It was 78 degrees. And I was out there starting to sweat, work up a sweat, and I'm bagging this, cutting this. And all of a sudden, my left forearm from my wrist to my elbow was cramping. It cramped so bad that I felt like I was suffering from, I don't know, what's that, arthritis. I mean,
Mhm.
it hurt so bad. So I said, "Man, I must be getting dehydrated," right? So, and
Right.
unfortunately, BMR, I don't drink a lot of water. I just it's so boring. Water is so boring.
I'm with you.
And, starting next month, I've gotta start gunning some water, like, on a daily basis.
Not really starting next month. Let's back up here. Let's start like tomorrow.
Oh,
We got some for today.
well,
Start tomorrow. So
I
we get
wanted an 8-day cushion. Fine, Krista, I'll start. Well, in fact, I do have a bottle right here. I
there you
started.
go.
So I started drinking this water, and I couldn't do nothing. I couldn't even lift up the, excuse me, the hedge trimmer, right? Because I just couldn't do it.
Right.
I drank 3 bottles of water. I just slammed them in like under 5 minutes. About 5 minutes later, the muscles relaxed. So that was my first
Mhm.
clue that, yeah, I'm not hydrated, and it was
Hydrated.
just a cramping.
Yep.
So yeah, I gotta get back on the water program.
Well, like I said, and Amy says water is boring, and she's right.
Yeah.
However, you don't like water. I don't do water, so I have to use flavor packets, like a little kid make Kool-Aid, but it
Well,
works. I can get it down that way.
technically, you should. I was doing some reading some time ago. Technically, I personally, for my size, my weight, and height, I should typically drink a gallon of water per day.
Mhm.
They say, you
Yeah,
know,
you should.
I
Me
mean,
too.
that's what they say. I mean, and they say it's the best thing for you. And
Yeah,
again, like Amy says, and Wedge has just said it. It is so boring.
she's right.
And
That's what I'm saying.
so the flavor package is cool. If I
Mhm.
could, I just because I'm gonna start drinking a lot of this. I think I'm just going to starting tomorrow. I
Mhm.
started today a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but I don't want to spend. What I would prefer is getting the Gatorade, the sugar-free Gatorade
But you
strawberry with the
still need water.
electrolytes. With the
You need
electrolytes,
water though. Mhm.
maybe I can find some electrolyte packages. Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Um, $5. Thanks, Keith. Great way to support the show. I appreciate you, Keith. And Keith
Mhm.
is going to be. I'm not going to say he's going to be joining us in a few weeks. I don't know exactly when. He's got some cool things going on in Michigan. Keith, he lives about 45 minutes from me, so we're going to hook up with Keith.
Wow.
He's told me some cool things he's got going on, and that's all I'm going to say on that. But
Cool.
yeah, we might be having a Michigander joining as a guest here in a couple months, I think.
Mhm.
Thank you to Keith. So yeah, so the electrolytes. And yeah, so what I'm going to do, I have to be a good guy because I'm going to get my annual physical. In fact, I'm supposed to go tomorrow, but I'm putting it off.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put it off till next week until I saturate my body with water.
There you go. Thank
You know
you,
what I mean?
Gary.
Because my doctor is cool, but he gets on me. Thank you. 5 new Bigfoot Mr. on Pirates. Arr, thank you to Gary Spikes.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, I gotta get that. And I'm getting a little older. I gotta start. I never took care of myself. I started going to the doctor on an annual visits about 5 years ago, and I had never been to the doctor since I was in my early 20s. And I started going when I turned 50
Mm-hmm.
to get physicals, and my whole system was out of whack. He goes, "You haven't been here in 30 years?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." Well, so I had find out all these things that was wrong with my body, so which is fine today. But yeah, I mean, most men don't go to the doctor.
No, no.
I slit this hand open with a very deep gash when I was
Mhm.
about 30 years old, and I put it together with masking tape and super glue. I never got stitches.
Wow.
And you know what? There's not a scar. Best job that any surgeon could do. I did on myself with good old super
Oh,
glue and masking tape.
wow.
I know I got lucky, but hey,
Yeah, I don't know about that. I only go to the doctor when I'm sick or but But then I
Yeah,
go,
John says the good old blood work. Yeah, I get my blood done every last several years now, John, because that's important. It tells you what you're low in, and it
mhm,
checks a lot of things. So
yeah,
yeah, so I'm kind of, I'm doing that now.
it's good. That's good
Candy
for you.
says built tough. Yes, thanks, Candy. Yeah, we're all dudes are built tough.
Mhm,
And coming from Ford country, Ford trucks are built tough.
yeah. See, me, I don't like to be sick at all. So if I feel sick, I go to doctor. There's pills for that stuff. Like, if I get a headache, I'm taking ibuprofen. If I don't know, get a cold and I think I need an antibiotic, I'm going to the doctor. I'm getting better because I don't like to be sick.
No, well, I don't either. And I tell you what, though, I don't get sick. I
Hmm.
don't get the flu. I haven't had the flu in years. I
Hmm.
don't get the flu shot.
Yeah, I don't get any shots.
I did not get the other shot, but I
Hmm.
did have the COVID. I got that once, but
Hmm.
it was out of my system in 3 days.
Yeah,
But I don't really get those
I've had
shots.
I've had COVID 4 times now. So, it's just like a cold now.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, kind of that's what it is. Just an
it's here to
advance.
stay. It's not going
It's not
anywhere.
going nowhere, and
Um,
and unfortunately, in 5 years or less or longer, there's going to be another thing that we're all going to go crazy about, and it's going to be driven in the media, and everyone's going to go nuts. And I think we learned the first time around that was such
yeah.
a drawn out, overblown situation. I think we learned as Americans, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
so today's show, everybody, I'll tell you what's all going on. We don't have a guest tonight, and that's kind of on purpose because I'm lined up with cool guests starting next Tuesday. Me and Krista, I book with guests starting next week, all the way through December 17th.
Hmm.
So we're gonna have a nice loaded lineup with researchers and experiencers that have seen Bigfoot, Dogman, Ghost, all the
Very
stuff you guys like. We're gonna have.
awesome.
So
Very
I
cool.
was trying to think, Chris, about what to talk about today. We always can
Mhm.
talk. That's not an issue,
We can
but
come up with something. Believe me.
we always come up with something. And the thing that we talk about at least once a week, it comes up once a week across the board. It does not matter whose show you're watching.
Hmm.
We talk about the cryptids. And I'm not just
Yeah.
saying, when I say cryptids, I'm talking general, not necessarily
All of it.
Bigfoot,
Yeah.
but Bigfoot, Dogman, Mothman,
All of it.
Goat Man, Stick Man,
Frogman.
Frogman, all of this, Elephant Man, whatever. And then there's, of course, the paranormal. Now, when I say the paranormal, I'm going to classify that as paranormal, supernatural, ghosts, aliens, UFOs, all the stuff that's,
Cryptid.
it's not a actual creature.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's always that debate, flesh and blood versus paranormal.
Hmm.
And, we talk about this ad nauseum, we do.
Yeah.
And
But
it's not,
it's a topic that we're into, and
it's a top.
I feel
Go ahead,
like
I'm sorry.
everybody in chat is into it too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be
No,
here.
they are into it. It just seems like that we do, because since we are on like all the time, we always seem to talk
Hmm.
about it. But I realize that the audience, they dig it. So we talk about it. And I
Hmm.
will tell you, I'm going to make a statement today. I got some numbers I'm going to run by everybody. I'm going to tell it. I'm going to let it out right now. I'm 67% sure that most of this is paranormal and the other 33% is flesh and blood. That's my call. That's what I think now.
Hmm.
But the reason I come up with these numbers is this. Now, we all know about my encounter.
Hmm.
You and I can talk about it, first of all, to qualify. I don't believe in Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot exists, although I question what I saw. I also believe in the paranormal and ghosts because I'm not a believer. I know I've seen ghosts, active
Hmm.
ghosts. I've had paranormal experiences. I've had a whole bunch of weird crap, including
Hmm.
bringing home, I don't want to call it evil, but, nefarious things into my marital home when I got those
Right.
haunted artifacts. So I know about Krista. You know Bigfoot exists. You've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you being an investigator in the paranormal for 10 plus years, you believe in seeing all sorts of paranormal ghosts and
Right?
other activity. So we can talk about it.
Oh yeah. Yep, we can
So,
talk.
so I didn't. So one day I've been doing this for about 6 weeks, maybe almost 2 months, you guys. I've been doing this podcast now for close to 4 years. Well, Brunch with Bigfoot Mission Rob, 4 years. This one, 3 years probably. So, and I've done well over 600 shows, and well over, right? And of those 600 shows, 80% of the shows I've either had a researcher on or a person that had an experience with a Bigfoot, a dogman, a ghost, a UFO,
Mhm.
an alien. So we have people on that have seen these things.
Yep.
So, and then the book is comprised of people that have seen these things. So I started doing this experiment, and every morning for the last two months, I would get up and I went through all my shows, and I got a legal pad. Now, the left side, it says flesh and blood. The right side says paranormal. So for every show that I came across, I put a check mark if
Mm-hmm.
it was if it was flesh and blood or paranormal. Now, I will put the caveat in this. If a person on a show was flesh and blood, but they mentioned they still think there's some paranormal element, that went
Mm-hmm.
with paranormal.
Right.
And then just straight shooters that say, hey, it's nothing more than an ape, a monkey. Well, that's in the left hand. That's flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
At 250,
Thank you, Diane.
thank you, Diane. So for 6 weeks, I do this about 5 to 10 minutes a day every morning when I do all my other things, that I like to do. Krista, when I hit 250 shows and stories, I stopped because, okay, I think I have enough data, really, out of 600.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you the numbers I came up with for this.
Okay.
Out of 250 check marks, flesh and blood versus paranormal, I'm going to throw out the numbers and I'll let you guess which you think it is. Of the 250, there was one check mark gained 180 check marks, which is 72%.
Mm-hmm.
And the other check mark got 28%. So out of 250 check marks, 180 was one, 70 was the other. So those two numbers, which do you think was flesh and blood, or which do you think was paranormal?
So I think the 180 was on the paranormal side.
Yes.
And I only know this because I've done a lot of shows with you now, and I know what we talk about.
Yes. But this is coming from not you or I. This is coming from guests, and you've been on with me forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that, hey, there are certain people that say Bigfoot is just flesh and blood. It's an animal of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But then they say, but you know what, though? I don't know how it can move so fast or how it can seem like it goes through a portal.
Or I can't explain that orb I just seen right before it, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't. That orb just, came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, a Bigfoot appeared, and then it vanished into mist, and then all of a sudden, those tracks disappeared. Yeah, come on, flesh and blood. They don't, come on. So,
yeah.
So that's why I came up with the 67% in my belief system today, and it's probably closer to the 72%. Hell, probably 80% with me, but I still have to keep the mind open to maybe something that is just a flesh and blood where you can shoot it and it bleeds. I gotta believe. Part of me believes that's probably out there.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Only because, I guess when we all started, we were all strictly flesh and blood. I have no doubt there. We were all probably flesh and blood. However, I have seen things that I can't explain in the woods. I've seen the orbs, so If anybody wants to persecute me for saying that, I have seen the orbs multiple times in the woods. However, the Bigfoot encounter, the second one that I had, I will say I actually saw like the outline of it through the tent, the shadow. And there was nothing woo about that. That honestly could have been flesh and blood, I will say, because there was not one woo thing about that one. So, I feel like I've experienced both.
I think you have. I think I did. And I think Lawrence Morgan, he looks to be new. Thanks for coming on in. I think Lawrence says, I'll put him up here to give him some props here. He says, I think it can go into basically a different dimension. And you know what, Lawrence? I think that these cryptids are multi-dimensional. I do believe that. Interdimensional, multi-dimensional, there's so many terms, that.
Yeah.
I think they exist in a different plane. Hey, Pancho, woo woo. Yes, a little woo, mixing in some woo.
Yeah. And just let everybody know that's coming in late. People are saying hi. My phone is dead and it's being charged, so I can't respond to everybody. So hello, and I'm not being snotty. I just don't have a way to chat with and say hi back. So
yes, and the chat is running. Hello to each and every single one of you. If I don't say hi and type it to you, don't mean I don't love you. I do. It's just I'm getting into this with Kristen, trying to read and talk and come up with what I want to talk about here. So thank you to everybody and hello. But yeah, and I believe they exist in the different realms, planes.
Me too. I'm with you.
And I certainly, we always talk about the dog man. That's definitely that's a dimensional creature.
Well, because I agree with that too, because so let's just Bettina Moss. She had that dog man encounter,
right?
And it mind spoke to her, like it said, it's only you, like it recognized her. That's to me, that's not flesh and blood that does that, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say anything flesh and blood can do those things. Yeah. You and I are flesh and blood. Can we do that?
Mind speak to people? I can't mind speak to people. So
excuse me.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know. I feel like I've experienced both. And, I believe your encounter, I don't believe your encounter was flesh and blood. I think yours was total opposite of mine.
And Keith says, BMR, my UP story may validate your view. Yeah, well, thanks, Keith. And again, Keith will be joining us in a couple months.
Cool.
Or 1 month. I don't know. I got to still get together with Keith. I've been talking with Keith. He's got some great, fascinating stuff. But okay. I can't materialize from a stump into a human, can I? I can't turn into mist. No. And all these things we've come across, Bigfoot evolved out of a stump, walked out of a tree, came from an orb. There was a UFO aircraft. There was a UFO in the area. There was a Bigfoot. That's just don't.
I agree. I'm with you. I can't argue that. Because, and like I said, I was that person, man. They're flesh and blood. You can shoot these things. They can bleed like the rest of us. They feel pain.
And see, and I agree with you. And let me tell you something. And I always hate going back to my encounter, but it just resonates because I've seen it, man. So it's something I simply just can't disregard or talk about. What I saw initially was something that I felt in my heart of heart today, if I look back at it, is something that I easily could have shot and it would have bled because it looked like a human being covered in all that. It looked like, as I always describe what it looked like. But then, Krista, what it morphed, metamorphosized into something that was not human at all, was not flesh and blood at all. And what it did when it just roared, screamed all in unison and changed my paradigm where I was now seeing black and white. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed.
Right.
Hey, listen.
And your girlfriend was thrown out of the boat.
Girlfriend thrown out of the boat.
That's just not normal.
That was an energy that an average human being cannot throw on anybody.
Right.
So there was something super paranormal about it.
Absolutely, there was. That's what I'm saying. That's why I think there's both, like, because we both seen something, but it was two totally opposite type encounters, you know. And the thing too was mine wasn't frightening. I mean, it kind of freaked me out because it was around our tent. But as far as, like, you know, being aggressive or anything like that, it was not where your encounter was.
It was, you know.
So,
and even reflecting back to guests we've had on the shows or people that send emails and stuff that I've talked to on the phone or whatever, there's just so many that they just can't put their finger on what they saw. They know they saw something.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's like, how does it move so? I mean, some people suggested that they seen this thing go past them in a blur. And then all of a sudden they seen it at the end of the tree line, standing there looking in at them, you know. And so,
well, and that's the thing too. And they also say, like, how many times have you heard people talk about how fast these creatures are? Not just Bigfoot, but I'm talking Dogman too. Like, how fast they are. Like, that's not normal. That's not flesh and blood. Maybe they can run like a cheetah. Maybe. But, you know, like, people talk about, like, you know, with dogmen keeping up with cars that are going, you know, 50 miles an hour, you know.
And that's, as strange as that sounds, that's a very common encounter for people.
Right.
I've had half a dozen, if not more, people tell me that same thing.
Yeah.
And also, though, and the gait of these things. Now, here's the thing that also throws a wrench into what we're talking about here. Let's say you have some tracks. They're Bigfoot tracks. They have a gait of 4 feet, 5 feet. That's moving quickly. That's an extreme gait. And that's a stride that you can go a half a block in 30 seconds. Well, a minute. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you have the people, though, that they're camping. They're sitting in their tent. They hear something walking. Like you, Brandy heard something, right?
Well, I actually, Brandy was in her car. So I think I heard it first around my tent, and then I seen the shadow of it through the moonlight. So I seen exactly what it was. I knew exactly what it was.
And so all these things we're talking about, we're saying paranormal, but I got to say this, and I have to appease the flesh and blood people, because this is where I then get confused, or maybe it just makes me think. And that's why we always talk about this, because we don't have any answers. We just have what people tell us or what we have seen ourselves. You're camping. You hear the crunching, the bipedal footfall surrounding your tent, crunching down. You hear the grunt, and a grunt of something you can't make out, right?
Sorry.
Then a little dog jumps into play and scares the thing off. But and then, you know, you're scared to get out of your tent, or you'll see a shadow outline of your tent of this massive humanoid out there, which is definitely not a ghost. It's definitely not paranormal. And then you get out of your tent the next morning, or maybe after the whatever it is goes away. Then you see 23-foot impressions in the ground of a foot that are not paranormal.
Right.
And you see them circling through your camp. And then you go through and you follow the tracks to the tree line. Sometimes they disappear, sometimes they don't. You follow them into the tree line, then you'll see a healthy branch on a tree not only snap but twisted, and it'll be prints around that 7 foot up. That again's not paranormal. That's something that a flesh and blood creature could easily do, especially when we talk about these prints. I mean, the prints that we have are definitely from something flesh and blood.
For sure.
The question comes into play is when they just all of a sudden disappear.
Right.
You know?
Well, and that and people talk about that too, you know. So I don't know. I can't say what they are like. And another thing too. Okay, here I'm going to go squirrel on you. So, like, people that are out in the woods or whatever, they get the feeling of being watched.
Right.
You know, to me, I don't know. Is that paranormal? I mean, because like I had that feeling. My first Bigfoot encounter, I never saw it with my eyes, but I had that feeling of being watched. And why is that?
I think we all have that instinct if we are being watched. Now, again,
Right?
where you're,
But it's common.
it's common for everybody. I mean, just like I always talk about, hey, if you're standing in line at the grocery store, you get that feeling that someone's maybe looking at you, and then you turn around and you bust them, and sure enough, they were staring at you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all that. It's our intuition. I think we're all born with that. I think every human being has the ability. Hell, I think some human beings have the. We have. We don't use near the amount of brain power that we can. There's a lot of things we can probably do, which could be considered paranormal. We only tap into what 8% of our brain capacity.
I would
I have
agree.
no idea.
No, that's true.
And then like myself, I can sense people very quick, which with great intuition. And you can. I mean, I'm a good judge of character without even reading a resume on a person. I get that, and the feeling of being watched in the woods. Maybe if a Bigfoot's staring down at you from 90 feet away, you might get that intuition. But I will say this: when people say they felt like they were being watched, they also throw out this next line about they felt dread. Don't get a lot of dread feelings with a lot of these Bigfoot stories. The dread a lot of times comes from either a dogman type entity or maybe a nefarious spirit or ghost that's lurking around the
That's
area.
true. So with my first Bigfoot encounter that I didn't even know was a Bigfoot encounter, I was camping in my camper, and it was 2:00 in the morning. I took my dog out, and my dog never barks. My big dog never ever barks, and he barked towards the woods. And before he had barked, I had felt this feeling of being watched. So my friend was sleeping inside on the couch. I woke her up. I'm like, "Hey, Kathy, come out here." And she did. And she's like, "Whoa," she felt it. So we even laughed about it. We went in the camper, which kind of freaky. We went in the camper. I locked the door and we laughed. We're like, "Oh, it's probably some raccoon watching us." Well, fast forward 6 months, and we were doing the paranormal roundup. It was one of our conferences that we put on, and it was at the same place where we had this encounter. And we had a camper there, but it was a different camper. And a psychic medium who we've had on Blondes and Boo show, she's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you. I need to know what happened over there." And I'm telling you, neither one of us ever posted this on Facebook. We never did anything. And then it hit Kathy and I that night. She's like, "What happened? I see the dog. I see you backing in." And she just looked at me and Kathy real casually, and she said, "You had a Bigfoot encounter. A Bigfoot was watching you." Like, how would she know that? So that's why I know, like, I had a Bigfoot encounter that night with that feeling of being watched.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was just really weird how she picked up on that. Like, we had never even talked about it. Like, we had forgot about it. This was 6 months later, and she came to us about it, which is pretty interesting. Yeah.
That is very amazing. And Robert says here in chat, cryptid's presence is very unnerving.
Yeah.
It feels like 10 people are looking at you. And it's just, and it's just what it brings. It's a primordial feeling of being watched. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's funny because you can be in an arena, or we can go back to something simple like a supermarket. There's 30 or 40 people kind of looking at you. Or if you're in the gas station in line, especially when you're in line, there's a lot of people looking at you. They're looking at you, how long is the line, short the line. You don't get that feeling every time.
Right.
There's occasionally you get that feeling, a set of eyes are, staring at you, and I do think that, and I think a lot of people though, and I will say this, and I could be totally wrong. I don't know. A lot of people that are into Bigfoot and cryptids and stuff like that, and they're out camping or they're out researching or looking. I think a lot of times too, we're so excited about being out in the woods and doing some research that sometimes we manifest the feeling of being watched. when there's really nothing even around.
Right. No, I got you. I'm with you on that. It is a weird feeling, and people in in chat had commented about, it's like a dreadful feeling, and it is. It's creepy. It's scary.
And Robert just follows up with, in my experience, this overrides anything else. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Sure. It's scary. And I don't know. It's just I can't explain it. I can't, it's why we're all here, because we all want to learn, and that's my whole purpose of doing these shows, learning from you, learning from chat, learning from our guests. And we're all looking for answers, but unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have them until we meet our maker one day. And then we'll be like, oh yeah. So,
I'm not so sure we're going to have any. I mean, once we think we have an answer, we don't.
Right.
And what I love about our chat, what I do, like for everybody that's watching, a lot of people in the chat room, what I like doing, you mentioned learning. I learn a lot from the people in the chat, or that they have great ideas, because I will, when the replay is up and when the chat opens up, because I think you can't watch the chat replay until like 24 hours later. Right. I always read the chat comments from the people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people in chat are very smart and they have a lot of great ideas. So if I miss anybody that has a cool or very good comment, if it's not put up or mentioned, hey, just keep on doing it, because I go back and reread all your stuff, you guys. I really do. And I respond to most all your comments if you leave them. So
so everything we talk about literally is speculation.
It is.
It's our experiences, and people, in chat talk about their experiences, and it's all about learning from everybody. Scott's Life says he's in Missouri tonight. Well, hello, Scott. You're
awesome. And Chris, I've got kind of I'm going to talk about this encounter in a minute. It could go either way. It's just, so that's why I'm trying to show everybody, yeah, this is what we're talking about here. But with that being said, I've drank 9 bottles of water. I have to go take care of something real quick. So if you want to just promote what you got going on this weekend, and I'll be back in about 2 minutes.
All right. Sounds good. So tomorrow night, Brandy and the guys, they'll be doing a show. I'm not exactly sure what their topic is, but Thursday night, Blondes and Booze is going to be a really good show. We have Thomas Ferrario, and he's from Marley Woods, which is the Missouri's version of Skinwalker Ranch. There's everything from cryptids, there's UFOs, there's ghosts, a horse even spontaneously combusted. So he's coming on to talk about that, and you'll have actually Brandy and Tex, because my daughter has a game. So unfortunately, I'm going to miss Thursday. But then Friday night, I'll be at the museum, and BMR is going to be with me, because Brandy is going to be driving to the museum. And then Saturday, Paranormal Paul's show, and Late Night with BMR, we're going to go live from the museum and do some ghost hunting and stuff. So anyway, that should be fun. And real quick, Scott's Life says, you're sleeping in Sullivan, Missouri tonight. You are not that far from me, really, Scott. And actually, my daughter lives in Sullivan. So anyway, but yeah, so anybody who is tuning in a little bit late, I don't have my phone, so I can't chat back to everybody. So anyway, but we have a busy weekend. Blondes and Booze does. I think I seen BMR, his show on Thursday is Carter Bouchard, so that should be a good show too. And so we got some good shows coming on. There you go.
Yeah, we do. I'm sorry. Hey, I'm trying to get rid of these cramps. So I can tell the water is just like going through me.
Yep.
I think my body needed it. It really did.
Yep.
So dehydrated today I talked earlier in the show, you guys. Just watch the replay. But yeah, and now I'm getting nasally. Now I can feel my nose plugging up. I'm falling apart, Krista.
Yeah, when we get older, we all fall apart.
God, I guess so. I can't complain. I mean, it is what it is. And also, I heard you. I didn't really hear you. I know you did a little. You said what's coming up here pretty soon. Mm-hmm. And I think Saturday on the midnight show, if I'm correct, it'll be me and Monica. I think Monica will be with me, but you and Brandy, we're going to be going live to your haunted location, correct?
Yes. And over there, we are going to have, let's see, we've got Greg Ogles. He's flying in on Friday. And we have Paranormal Paul. He's going to be there. And so we'll be ghost hunting with them. And actually, you guys stay tuned on Friday because I'm going to actually go live. We are going to, Kathy from the museum and I, we are taking Greg Ogles to Lexington, Missouri to the Anderson House. It's a haunted location that the Battle of the Hemp Vale was fought there during the Civil War. And so we're going to go live from there in the battlefield. We've gotten EVPs from out there. So anyway, it's going to be fun. So I'll probably do a members only live show from out there.
Freaky always with the great comments. I love Freaky. 69 likes, I guess that is the fun and interesting number. Like, share, and subscribe, especially if you're new. Thank you once again to Freaky.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited about this, the midnight show, and I'm just excited what you guys have going on this whole week. This whole week is gonna be nothing but great shows for everybody. We'll all be busy.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for coming in.
And anybody in chat, it's BMR and myself on Friday night, Blondes and Booze. So if you guys want a certain topic for us to talk about, drop it in chat and we'll see. You know, maybe we can do a little homework this week and see what you guys want to hear. So
because we usually research stuff, but we also like if you guys leave a comment what you want to hear, we are more than willing to explore all avenues as we try to diversify. We talk about everything, you guys, as most of you know by now. We're not just cryptids, we do it all. And I got some cool UFO people coming up in November as well. So we all got great shows coming up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go
ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's got some definitely good shows. So
and we do. And so I got this encounter that was sent to me that it kind of encompasses a lot of what we're talking about, that I'm going to present it to everybody, and we can kind of spitball it and see what we think about it. And so I got some of the notes here really quick, and this is an email I got, and I think this is in one of the two books, to be honest with you. And so the email, Krista, goes on to say, hey, Rob, my name is Daniel, and he's with the Muskogee Nation out of Oklahoma. He's part of the First Nations tribes that are of the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and the Seminole. Now, really quickly before I move on, we didn't even go over the part about First Nations people, how the majority, not all, believe that Bigfoot's more of a spiritual, Sasquatch.
Correct.
More of a spiritual entity, right?
Yes.
So, and he goes on to say some cool stuff. He's been a subscriber for quite a while, likes the shows. Bonds and Booze even dropped your name in text, which was cool. And then he says, hey, a story you did not too long ago was about in particular about a First Nations people of Lake Superior involving the Dogman. And then he also mentioned a couple other things. I'm not going to get into that about what I've done and stuff. As he goes on to say, too many to mention. And so he goes on to say his reservation is located off of the Arkansas River in Oklahoma. And where he lives, there's a vast expanse of woodlands where his grandfather started taking him as a young boy around the age of 9 or 10, all the way up through adulthood when his grandfather passed away. His grandfather preached to him about the culture, the beliefs, and about Sasquatch being spiritual. Okay. Also, he goes on to make mention that his experiences and his adventures with his grandfather took place in the mid to late 1980s. And again, the grandfather, big on the heritage, always talked to the grandchild about the heritage and keep a pulse on the afterlife, the spirit world, and beyond. So now, the way this is shaping, woo is the handprint of the woo is all over this, right? So the grandfather started getting a little discontent and upset with his First Nations tribes because in that modern era, more and more of the people were saying that Sasquatch wasn't spiritual at all, that it was indeed a flesh and blood, right, creature,
Mhm.
or perhaps a ancient human being.
Right.
But he wanted his grandchild to hang on to the past, the history of many years ago, founded by the Muskegees. So now the father of the child was always at odds with the grandfather, telling his grandchild of all these teachings about Sasquatch, the spirituality of it, and all this.
Mhm.
So the grandfather would always take this young man on a hike through the woods that surrounded the reservation. Yeah, he says typically, Rob, it would always start at sunrise, and sometimes they would not get back until just after sundown.
Wow.
They would start on the trail, and they always, for whatever the reason, ventured off of the trail, yeah, into a different unexplored part of where they live, right? And the grandfather always brought the appropriate equipment with him: machetes, blankets, water, all that, to take care of their long day. That's a long day, Chris. The sunrise and sundown,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So, anyways, right around the age of 16, the grandfather now started taking his grandchild on into the much tougher terrain where you really had to be a woodsman and you had to be in good shape and get through all this.
Mhm.
And at the age of 16, the grandfather says, "Hey, you should be strong enough to keep up with me." Now, this grandfather, man, he must have been a Hulk because
Right.
he's just, but I believe when you do that every day, it's just part of your life. It's
Right.
probably.
Absolutely.
And again, the grandfather always talked about Sasquatch and the magical teachings about not just Sasquatch, but the forest. He talks about another thing we love talking about is the elementals.
Mhm.
He said the Sasquatch and the elementals, he kept evil or wrongdoers away from their land.
Could see
The,
that.
the grandfather no went on to tell now at the age of 16 that he was going to take his grandchild to meet their protector. Now, the grandfather and the dad would always bicker about this.
Mhm.
The dad wanted his father to tell his son to stop putting this into his mind. You're not taking him in this rough terrain. You're not going to look for the Sasquatch. But anyway, Abe, the son wanted to be with the granddad, and he was very interested on this.
Mhm.
So, as the guy that sends me the email says, Rob, turning 16 could not come fast enough. Then a day, man, on the exact day of the 16th birthday, Grandpa asked him if he was ready to meet Sasquatch.
Mhm.
Of course, this is what this young man has been waiting for since the age of 10. So they started out into the woods. They started out like they always do, right before sunrise, and they headed out. As they started on the trail, they maneuvered their way through some dense brush, and where they reached an open pathway, and they started following this pathway. The pathway was flanked with a crystal clear stream, and it was a stream that he had never seen on their past adventures. And he
Mhm.
says that the forest looked a little different, much different than prior. He could smell. He says he goes on to say that even his senses were expanded. I mean, he could smell more in more enhanced the flowers, the shrubs, the trees. Unlike before, it was almost like it was magical or mystical, and he was kind of thinking that it was extremely odd. He thought it almost reminded him of a new world.
Mhm.
So they came about a small meadow. Thanks,
Thank you,
Maggie.
Maggie.
So they came about a small meadow where the grandfather stopped. He took out a bunch of small blankets and laid them on the ground. And then the grandfather asked the grandson, "Hey, are you ready?" And of course, yes, Grandpa, I'm ready.
Mhm.
Grandpa puts his fingers to his lips, signaling to be quiet, and he began to speak. Grandfather now speaks in a tongue very unfamiliar to his grandson. He could not understand the words that the grandfather was preaching or saying out into the woods. Then breaking from the wood lines surrounding the meadow, it appeared as though the trees were all crashing to the ground. Then the Sasquatch appeared, okay? Now, Rob, the Sasquatch appeared. He says he can't believe what he's seeing, and he must admit he always believed and trusted his grandfather, but believing is something, and it totally eradicated his skepticism. Now to actually see this, he now knows grandfather was not giving him a tall tale. He says the Sasquatch was taller than any man as it approached, and it got very close. He says it was perhaps 10 feet away. And again, very tall. And it says as the face was covered from, the entire body was covered from hair to toe. The face was as human as a human face could be, very human-like.
Wow.
He says it was a somber face, right? He says the thing about the forest person, as he now says, probably because that's what his grandfather was preaching him, says it was not human at all, though. And then he says, Krista, this, as he looked further at the Sasquatch, it was not solid. The body was not solid. It was well defined, very muscular, but not solid. He could see through it. It was vaguely transparent. He could actually see through this being to the background of the woods. And then he goes on to tell me in the email that telepathically now, again, he's changes from fourth person to spirit entity. See how he's all over now? This guy's already confused. He says it spoke to him. And he says to the grandson, believe in the teachings of your elder, for he is a wise man. Believe, in other words, in the teachings of grandfather. He is wise. Then in an instant, the Sasquatch turned to mist and was gone.
Wow. So
the grandchild looks at his grandpa and he cried tears of joy. Thank you so much for this awesome experience.
Yeah.
The grandfather said what was spoken was for him and him alone via the telecommunication or the telepathy. Grandpa puts his fingers back to his lips once again. What was spoken was for you and you only. Again.
Wow.
So the grandchild, he goes on to visit this area by himself over the next 2 years. He never sees the Sasquatch again until one day, a day that he will never forget. It was the day that his grandpa passed away. He was very sad. He was ridden with pain and angst. He wanted to go back and see the Sasquatch, which he hadn't seen now after the one experience, but now he wants answers. Answers about his grandfather. Why was grandfather taken away? He went back to the exact same area in the meadow we had the first experience. He did like grandfather and laid out all his blankets, right? He sat out the tree line of the meadow. He waits. Rob, he says, the Sasquatch appeared the very same way that it came to him the 2 years prior. And it telepathically communicated again. He says, however, the voice was different. It was the voice of, the voice was the voice of his now passed on grandfather.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. So now it says to him, grandson Daniel. So apparently the grandson's name is Daniel. And now this Sasquatch, speaking like the grandfather, calls him out, grandson Daniel. Do not be sad. This is time to raise up your heart and pass on my preachings, which I told you about over the years, despite your father passing on to your children for generations. Because what you're witnessing today is what Sasquatch is all about.
Wow.
And that's, kind of, he says some other goodbyes to me in the email. And hey, so pretty cool story.
Nothing flesh and blood about that story.
Nothing flesh and blood except for the fact that when he saw it initially, he thought to be flesh and blood, but then it got closer and it seemed to be transparent. But I will tell you, like I mentioned earlier, the First Nations, I think 70% believe it's a spiritual creature.
Mhm.
Like this grandfather was. Little Patty says it wasn't a Sasquatch. Well, again, we're talking about the woo. I'm a believer that a lot of this is paranormal. This was a paranormal account, if you ask me.
Mhm. I would agree.
In the beginning, it might have seen flesh and blood. Now, I didn't get no details about these track any prints or anything, but it just
Right.
kind of came out of nowhere. But then it always, but then I'll let you talk what your thoughts are. My one last thought on this is, as cool as that story was about the grandfather, this creature, this entity speaking in his grandfather's name, first of all, that would freak me out, I do believe.
Mhm.
And secondly, I have a demonic undertone reading into that myself. I don't know
Yeah.
why. It just strikes me a little odd.
Well, I mean, that encounter had everything except alien UFOs in it. It had everything from, a Bigfoot to possibly like maybe even a ghost to some metaphysics there with the mind speaking. It had a little bit of everything in there. I feel like the Native Americans, they know what these creatures are, We're just now
I
learning.
think they do. I think the Native Americans
Mhm.
do.
Yep, and we're just learning.
And I know from a lot of the Native Americans I've spoken with or heard on other
Mhm.
podcasts that we've had on the show, protectors of the forest,
Yep.
forest giant. But then you'll have other ones that are totally dead, steadfastly against it. Thanks, Mickey.
Mhm.
Steadfastly against it to know there's something that isn't friendly.
Right. And I wonder why, let's talk about that for a minute. Like why some encounters are friendly and some are not. And that's with all these cryptids, Bigfoot, Dogman, all of them, why, are they like people where there's good ones and bad ones, or it could it be because some are interdimensional and some are flesh and blood? Maybe like the flesh and blood ones aren't so nice or vice versa, or I don't know.
Well, I've
I'm just
always said this, even way back when I first started doing this stuff, and with very limited
Mhm.
experience. I believe this about everything. I believe, much like human beings, there are good human beings and there are terrible human beings. And I believe Sasquatch or Bigfoot, I think there's good and bad. The only thing that I have problem with is the dog man. I just don't see anything good about that.
right.
Um, although since we were talking about flesh and blood, we've all heard about the dog man that is an actual dog. They can walk on two legs with the hock legs, about
Mhm.
6 foot tall, and is an actual dog.
But here's my thing though, with as far as Dogman, okay? So Bigfoot, Dogman, any of these creatures, if they wanted to kill you, they will.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
well, a
so
Bigfoot
there's
could
so
take
many
care of you in a minute.
survivors, you know, that have had encounters with these different creatures. What was the reason why they didn't?
Yeah. Hey, Gary Spikes, I know they're good. There are some probably good dogmen. There probably are. It's just the vast things that I get, and this is just
Mhm.
me, aren't all that good. But let me tell you, I will say that I think there's probably good dogmen out there. I will. But the dogman is such a thing that you hear about them being created in the labs. That's not good. You hear
Right.
about them being possessed by a demon, or it's the devil's pet. I mean, we've heard so many crazy things.
We have.
But I will say that no, there probably are dogmen out there just want to be left alone as well. And I think they're probably more of the flesh and blood type because I think there is flesh and blood dogman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to despise any of the cryptids. I think they're all good and bad in some instances.
Hmm. I would agree. I would agree with you. It's just, I guess we hear a lot of the negative encounters. We don't
We do,
hear
and,
a lot of good ones.
there's not too many people who say that they had a dogman encounter and it came up and
Mhm.
drank it lapped up all his their Doberman pinchers water and ate their food and they ran and played together.
Right.
You don't hear those, which would be cool to
No.
hear.
Right.
It's always like we talked about earlier, the feeling of dread, man. I get the feeling of dread. Yep,
Mhm.
there's the dog man.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen that often with Sasquatch though.
Mm-mm.
Not that I've gotten.
Yeah. I
So
don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say, like I said, I guess, I know very credible people who have had some awful encounters with these creatures. And what do you say? You know?
Yeah. And like Gary Spikes, which is awesome, senior, of all the encounters he's had, he's not had a single bad one,
That's
which is
good.
awesome. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And I believe that a lot of people, and he's not the only one. I've talked to many a person, Duke, who always pops in here. He's had nothing but good experiences. A handful of other people. I think the majority of people probably had good experiences with Bigfoot. I think so. I've never heard about a Bigfoot hurting somebody. Maybe inadvertently tearing down their tent and you get hit with the post from your tent.
Well, Martin Gross's encounter, it was both Bigfoot and Dogman.
Right. But his were no good. And I think
His
there's
were
some
bad.
people about that place anyway.
Yep.
I think any cryptid in the LBL, you got to look, excuse me, this water, what you're looking out for, right?
I mean, it's, he had Dogman and Bigfoot encounter. And like I said, his were bad. So I don't know.
But you don't know. And I think just like life, we come across the good, the bad, and the ugly.
We do.
One of my favorite movies, Clint Eastwood, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, by the way.
That's an old movie.
Just saying, that's an old one. That's an old one.
Well, like JoJo just said, probably don't hear from them because they're a missing 411, and she's right.
Yeah, that's a great point, JoJo.
Got a good point.
And again, hello to everybody in the chat room. Sorry if I didn't say hi. Just totally got into the show, but I appreciate everybody in the chat for coming on in. So hello to each and every single one.
I can't chat tonight, guys. So hello to everybody.
Krista can't chat because she'd have to look at her phone because we started a new little way we're doing things. So
yeah.
And Robert says some of his encounters were neutral, some good, some bad. Yeah, I think it goes both ways.
What do you think about these creatures? Okay, like I'm gonna compare here. Like a ghost, okay? When you go to a haunted location or somebody has a ghost in their house, a lot of ghosts will play on people's fear. Do you think the same could be said for like Dogman? Do you think they play on people's fear? I do, only because you hear of the Dogman smiling or things like that. So playing on fear plays a part in this.
I think it does because, again, I've never seen a Dogman that I'm aware of. I know what I've seen the Bigfoot. I've seen the ghosts and spirits and things like that. But again, I can only go by the people I've spoken with, which are everybody. It's literally hundreds, if not 1,000 people in 4 years. It seems like a lot of people say that the Dogman, maybe not bad, but it does want to put fear in you.
Right.
I've heard, we've heard about the Dogman running by the side of the car, which I get is kind of.
That honestly would scare me more than anything.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, that story is so out there, but you guys, people come across this. You hear these stories, and not just on my channel. There are 1,000 channels out there or podcasts where there's always some Dogman chasing them down or chasing a car. And here's the thing that always freaks me out is they get parallel to the car, like you're talking about. And the Dogman turns his head, looks inside the car, shows those fangs,
right,
glistening pearly whites, and manages on that big long snout to curl up its mouth in a smile and almost kind of tell you, I can get you whenever I want.
Exactly.
I get that statement from more people than not.
Right. And that scares me more than anything. Like if I would be driving in a car and it's keeping up next to me. Oh no. That would really.
No, I'd be frantic, man. If there was something like that literally chasing me down, and I know it's up to no good, I'd have a hard. I don't know how I would even drive because I'm going to keep one eye on that creature and one eye on the road. And half the time when these encounters happen, you're normally driving down some crappy dirt road full of potholes in the middle of the woods.
Right.
And you can very easily drift off the road and smash into a tree. So you got to keep your composure if that was to happen, which has happened to many people.
And I mean, it would feed off its fear on me because I guarantee I'd be scared. And
and like you say too, if you revert back to like even the paranormal world, if you come across you've come across some really bad entities, right?
Yes.
And if they can sense, maybe not you personally, but if they can sense that the human being is literally scared out of their wits,
Hmm.
don't they prey on that, and they try to feed that fear, and so you become more vulnerable so they can accomplish whatever goal they want to accomplish?
Oh yeah, I absolutely. Like when we do private cases, like we tell people, like, as hard as it is, if you're walking through and the door opens up, as hard as it is, try to ignore it because you're feeding it and it'll just get worse. Sometimes, not all the time, but I've also done private cases where when people stop feeding the fear, the activity lessens too.
Okay. So it also makes sense that I find that if you're going out researching for a Bigfoot, I often found that the people that don't project that, right? Because
Mhm.
everybody projects
Some
energy into the woods, right, or something. And if you
intention.
project, I'm looking to find Bigfoot, I'm going to find you, Sasquatch.
Mhm.
I hear some people say dumb stuff into the woods that I've
Right,
heard. I'm going to find you, Bigfoot. I'm going to get you, Sasquatch.
right.
You're not going to see them.
No.
It's usually the most encounters I've come across from people are the ones that are the happy Krista and Johnny and Susie Lynn. They're out camping that have no idea what even a Bigfoot is, and then all of a sudden it turns into an encounter story because one ran through their campsite
Right.
because you have no intention.
Yeah.
You're out just being one with Mother Nature.
Yeah. Well, Gary says just go camping and ignore them. It's the best way to get activity.
Yeah, pretend like you don't give a crap.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would do. I
Mhm.
would go out and not act like I wouldn't go out. I would not be doing tree knocks. I wouldn't be whooping it up.
Mhm.
I just keep it to myself. You
Sit
know,
around, like Gary said, sit around a campfire and just
sit
visit and
around
talk.
the
And
campfire, make a little food, talk some campfire stories, go down the creek, throw the line in the water, and try to catch some fish to cook
right.
up or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. Well, you just never know where they're at or how I know we can't like talk numbers, but do you think like there's a lot of them out there, or do you think, do you think there's like as many like Bigfoot as there are like raccoons out there, or you know what I'm saying? What is your take on that, on the
I think
amount of them?
I haven't researched any numbers lately, but I will tell you, I heard some weird numbers a couple of years ago when I first started doing this, and people said there was maybe 100 in every state. That's why we can't find them or see them. I got to tell you this: there's damn well more than 100 in every state.
Mhm.
I gotta think they're prevalent. I gotta think. I can't throw out a number and sound. I can't do an educated guess. Even I'm not gonna say a million
Mhm.
in a state.
No.
Am I gonna say there's 500,000 Bigfoot roaming North America? I think absolutely.
Mhm.
I think
I
half a
think there's a
million's
lot of
nothing. I
them.
think that's a low number.
I think there's a lot of them. There's too many people out there that have encounters, just the ones we hear. How many people have encounters with these creatures that don't say a word to anybody about it?
Probably more than you know.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think there has to be, a butt ton of them.
You know, I'm really appreciative when I get these emails sent to me from people, because I put down right here a thing says email your encounter stories to my
Mhm.
email. And I will tell you that 90% of the stories that I get or encounter stories that I get, well, back in 1980, this is the
Mhm.
first time I'm telling anyone this. Back in 1980, back in 1976, I'm 79 years old today. Back in 76, back in 91, back in 2000, it's very rarely do I get back in 2022. It's like these people,
Mhm.
which I don't blame them at all, right? They don't want to be ridiculed, condemned, criticized, lose a job. I think I think shows like what we all do and other people that do
Yep.
this, I think it brings out more attention. I think people are more willing to not look because a lot of people today I don't think feel as weird about it, especially if you come on a
Right.
show like this. But I do think, I always found it strange. Back in 1992, Rob, I had my first Bigfoot encounter, and here we are, 2024. They're talking about it.
Right.
So I think there's many more people that have not told the stories than stories we've heard.
I would agree. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I know there's, we can't put a number on that, but there's so many people who have had encounters with these creatures. And, how do you, I think there's more like Bigfoot and dogmen than there are, say, like the Jersey Devil. I think there's more than one Jersey Devil. I don't think there's just one,
And
So-
yeah, good point, Rags. There's not much info about Bigfoot at all back then. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And like the Mothman, it's west the Point Pleasant, Chicago.
That's
really.
Mothman has been seen all over the world.
Do you think they're all over the world, Mothman?
Absolutely. Brandy and I did a show on it. I mean, they were seen in other countries. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times before a big catastrophe was seen. So do I think there's more than one Mothman? Heck yeah, I do.
I mean, do you think they're seen and outside of just Illinois or Chicago or West Virginia? Because I don't, and I had the story I did a while back about that one on in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of Mothman out there.
I do too.
I think it's more than just 2 states.
Yep. I think there's, quite a few Gugway out there, Janosko. I mean, all of these.
With the Gugway, Janosko, I think they stay, they're not around. They're out there. I think, again, depends where you live. I heard the Gugway is more of like the northern part of the United States and into Canada.
Yeah, I don't know, because Will Lunsford, he had a Gugway encounter down there in Fouke. He got a picture of it.
And that's right there, Fouke, Arkansas, right smack dab.
So I think they can be anywhere. Do I think there are as many Gugway as there are Bigfoots? No, I don't. I think, Bigfoot, there's a lot more of them, but I think there's more than one Gugway.
Well, I think even if you just go back to simply Bigfoot, Sasquatch, I think that Bigfoot there's just more than one type of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I think there's the flesh and blood Bigfoot too. Like I said, I think that the majority, there's that paranormal element, but I think much like human beings, there's more than, one race and one culture of humans. And I think that's the same for any of these cryptids. Can't say much about the Mothman. I think that's one thing. I think Dogman's many different things, but if you stick with the flesh and blood on Bigfoot, I think there's a lot of different species or again, cultures or nationality, if you will.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like the skunk ape in Florida, I think it's a Bigfoot. What do you think a skunk ape is? Do you think it's
Bigfoot? Yeah, skunk ape is Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yep. It's just different names, for different areas too.
The only thing I heard about that was, the skunk ape is a little smaller and maybe a little more wild. Yeah. I think it's a little more ticked off because, let's face it, I'd be ticked off if I was covered head to toe in hair, lived in 90-degree humidity, and
bugs.
And I was going through the jungle, the Amazon. No, that's I would be a pretty ticked off individual.
Yeah. Yep, there are different races of Bigfoot, like Lil Patty says.
Yes, absolutely. I do agree with that.
Yeah,
Robert says skunk ape misidentified as Bigfoot. I mean, I only think, my perspective, I think the skunk ape is a species of Bigfoot.
I do too.
And it just seems like it's common for people, especially in Florida, just to call it just the skunk ape.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like different areas have different names. Like, Ohio, the Grassman, Missouri has the Momo. I mean, they're different names, all over.
There's also Moose Man. I see my buddy Ron. Ron's in the chat. He's another guy I'm getting with up in Maine.
I never heard of this one. Have you heard of this one? Riley Ron Ivy Forrest says we have Guacu here that loves to eat people,
That
mostly girls, similar to a Bigfoot.
that I'm going to have to write down.
Yeah,
Never first. I'm writing that down right now because
yeah,
that's that's definitely something I gotta look that up.
and that's scary.
What was that again? Pull that up. What's uh,
It's GWAKCOO. So Guaku.
Guacu,
Yeah,
Guacu. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. Never heard of that one.
yeah,
Hey,
me either.
which brings me back to another point, Krista. Okay, we're talking about Bigfoot dog man. You know damn well. Okay, these are the two cryptids that is on everybody's radar. It's what we've
Oh,
all heard about. Many of us have seen them.
mm-hmm,
Yes, Mark, I think there's more than one tribe of Bigfoot. Good way to put it. Yeah, I believe that.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
Bigfoot dogman aside, Krista, I got to believe they ain't the only cryptids that fit that bill. I bet you there's things out in our wilderness, the woods,
Oh
we've
yeah.
never seen that we would have a whole bunch of fun, looking into if we came across something.
That's what I'm saying, man.
There's cryptids galore out there. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many uncharted billions of acres in our national forest man
Yeah,
has not set foot in. Think
yeah,
about that one.
yeah.
What's out there?
I
What
mean,
is out
I think there's more land out there that we haven't been through than we have.
that have? Yeah,
You know, there's plenty of places to go to hide.
oh, plenty.
Look
And you know what?
what he says here, that guaku means one who is hungry all the time.
Well, okay. Yeah, definitely, Robert. My encounter was not a skunk ape at all. No, it was
Yeah.
in Michigan. It was, I think, I initially thought it was a big. Okay, I say it's my Bigfoot encounter, Robert. However, I still question what it was 100%, just because of what happened. That's why I
Right.
go to the. I'm not gonna. I'm off of the kick. I don't think it's a demon, right? But I
Mhm.
think it's something that, to this day, is a mystery to me. So
Yeah. No, I agree.
yeah.
There was just a lot of weirdness with your encounter. I mean,
Yeah,
just
it had everything and had, like I said, at first thought it looked like just a human creature, a human being creature, right? But
Mark
then
as I said, there's more undiscovered land out there. Well, I think you know what I meant. There's more land out there that people haven't been to,
yeah,
that have. That's kind of what I meant.
yeah.
Yeah, I said it wrong.
Um couple questions here. Robert, pretty good to see you, Robert. I haven't seen he says he has a question that maybe you can answer this. What about ghost spirit encounters that appear as flesh and blood?
Mhm.
In my opinion, it's the same or similar for cryptids.
He's right, honestly, because you hear people, and people see full bodied apparitions. There's no difference there. I mean, I agree. We don't know what they are.
And of course, no, we don't. And Ron says the big question is why we never get a clear video. Bigfoot be all grainy. Well, so many. That's another show for that one there, Ron. But I got to tell you, what I've kind of learned from different people,
Mhm.
energy. It's just energy. How come your phone always is drained? Of that's the short answer, Ron. It's not. It's something I think energy frequency has a lot to do with that.
Mhm.
And I think it's set off on purpose. They know what they're doing, which again is not flesh and blood.
No.
Something
Well,
paranormal knows. Yeah, they know how to fudge your phone, and it's not a human. It's not a.
they pull your energy. They pull the energy. They're pulling. That's what they're wanting. So when your batteries drain and things like that, it's the
And
energy.
that's another thing. And that's another thing. Yeah, it's something that. Yeah, even a human being that's 7 foot tall, 350 pounds, if they're standing next to you, they're not draining the battery out of your phone.
Well, and here's another thing too, to make a point to kind of compare ghosts with like your encounter, because I've been to cases where like a ghost like zaps my energy, like literally. I mean, I don't get like sick or anything, but you can just feel you're drained and you're tired, and it's like, wow, what happened? and ghosts can do that. Well, so can Bigfoot. You know.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah.
I had
And
man,
that's not flesh and blood. Just saying.
Oh no, absolutely not. And man, I had something I wanted to bring up. It just kind of slipped my mind.
You got a few minutes to figure it out.
Yeah, I know I got a few minutes to figure it out. I want to thank everybody for coming and chat. If you guys on your way out or now, just please like. It does help the algorithm and push out the show even further.
Yep.
And if you're new, please subscribe to Bigfoot Mr. Rob and the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, Texas Front Porch.
Yep.
Paranormal Paul, Monica Rollins, Paranormal, Our Paranormal World. Donnie Cho says stuff. I think Josh is coming back soon. PRT hook him up. But
I think he was on the other night.
Okay, cool.
I seen the replay.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's driving me crazy. I forgot what I wanted to say. I think I had a relatively decent point to bring up.
You had a Krista moment because I get that way all the time.
Rag says, yeah. Well, I get them. I get Krista moments. I probably more so than you.
Well,
Rag says,
I was gonna say, Mark says, I love when something slips my mind. It means I'm still thinking. Amen.
Yeah, amen to that. Rag says Bigfoot have a higher frequency than humans do. And a lot of this stuff is all basically based on frequency.
Yep.
But I will tell you this, why I'm going with the woo too, which I can corroborate why I think my way. You know this story, Krista. You know what I'm about to say. Ron Moorhead, 20 and now it's coming from the Godfather's mouth. I love Ron Moorhead, Sierra Sounds. When I first interviewed him, I've interviewed him 3 or 4 times already. And he said, very first interview, Rob, 30 years ago, if you would have came up to me and say, hey, Mr. Moorhead, Ron, want to do an interview, and if you mentioned you think Bigfoot is part of the woo, he said to me, I would have turned you around and thanked you and said, no, absolutely not. This interview's over. Then when I had him on, he goes, today, Rob, he thinks that Bigfoot is more about the woo than anything.
Yeah. Yep.
Flesh and blood, yeah, it's true story. Ron, ask Ron if you ever meet Ron, ask him that, and he also
I've met Ron several times. He's
great guy.
Very
he
nice
believes, he has that book, The Quantum Bigfoot, where he believes Bigfoot is nothing but mass and energy, converts his mass into energy, hence how he can come in and out, move so fast, appear and disappear.
Yeah.
He believes that. And he also believes, believe it or not, and he told me this, you guys, I really almost, he baked my noodle. And he thinks there's a relation. I think all cryptids are connected, and even the paranormal. I think you do too, Krista. But when he mentioned there's a relationship between Bigfoot and aliens, is when I really said, boy, Ron, now you totally got my mind discombobulated. And now I know nothing.
Right?
So.
Yeah. Mickey said she's never heard of the Sierra Sounds. Oh, you have to go listen to it. It's literally, you hear
oh boy.
Like, yeah.
You must type in, go later on the computer on your phone, type in Ron Moorhead, the Sierra Sounds. I think there's a lot of free audio is out there. Put on your headphones. It's a language. It's something else. If you haven't heard that, that's like the like the holy grail of Bigfoot speech.
It sure is, absolutely. Brown Dwarf is in chat, and I actually I just watched the new Small Town Monsters, and he was on that one. So
all right, Brown Dwarf. Hey, Brown, how you doing? I say it all the time, Brown. I got to get with you for at least one more custom-made bandana. I still got the one. I wear it maybe once a month because I don't want to wear it out. Brown Dwarf, check him out too. He's got a great channel. Watch the skies. He watches the skies. He does.
Yep. He does got a good channel. I subscribe to him.
Yes, I'm gonna have to have Brown back on. You do too, Krista.
Mhm.
Last time Brown was on maybe a year ago, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while.
This has been a fantastic show.
Mhm.
I didn't know what we were going to talk about, and well, I've got guests lined up through December 17th, and I like to talk about this because it doesn't ever go away, does it? We gotta
Nope.
you know
Nope.
do our thing, and everybody in the chat room, hope you liked it. Give me a thumbs up. Hey, give me a thumbs down. I don't care. Help
Yeah.
out the algorithm.
And that's the thing too. Like, we didn't really even touch on like the orb side of things.
No, we didn't.
Like we didn't, and I've seen orbs several times out in the woods, but I've also saw orbs with my eyes at a haunted location inside a building. So WTF, what is it? You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't no Bigfoot in this haunted building, but yet I seen the same type of orbs that I saw in that building out in the woods. Go figure.
Absolutely. What we can do is we'll talk about that on another show, maybe on the Saturday midnight show.
Yeah.
Briefly, Keith from Michigan, thanks for the super chat. Gary Spike Sr., thank you for gifting 5 Bigfoot Mr. Rob memberships, 5 more pirates. Diane, thank you. 9 months as a pirate. Also, Maggie, thank you for your super sticker. I do appreciate that. You guys. It's awesome of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I need more water. I'm cramping up just a little. Boy,
Yep. Go get some water.
I gotta tell you, get some water, and I had to do a little break between segments. Hey, thanks,
Thank you,
Mark.
Mark.
Another awesome super chat. That's awesome. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Mark. Appreciative. I appreciate all of you for coming on in. I appreciate all the people that are watching now that are not in the chat. And I'm going to pull this up before we go. Why not? There was over 70 people in the chat, which is pretty cool. Appreciated. And there are currently listening live somewhere around the world. It just went up. 298 listening. 70 plus in chat. So that is awesome. Thank you to the people watching. And again, you don't have to participate in the chat. You help to
Yep, just watching.
you're just watching us. So that's great. Helps the algorithm. But however, you can also drop a like. You don't have to be in the chat room for that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, looking forward to the rest of the week. Today is Tuesday. Wednesday, you guys are on with Brandy does her gig with
the guys.
the guys, and that's about 8 Central.
It comes on at 7 Central.
7 Central. Then Thursday, I got Carter Bouchard on with the brunch show, talking some more woo. I think Carter loves talking the woo and Bigfoot. And then you'll be on Thursday at 8 Central, Friday 8 Central.
Well, it'll be Brandy and Tex on Friday, and then on Thursday, and then on Friday is you and I.
You and me. Okay, cool. And then I do my midnight show Saturday. And Saturday, everybody, midnight, 11 Central. Tune in to my midnight show and do Paranormal Paul a couple hours earlier. I got to turn on the alert bells. But we'll be, me and Monica are going to be doing the show, but it's going to be Krista, Brandy, Paranormal Paul, I believe, right? Are going to be in Greg Ogles too, or no?
Ogles. Yep. Greg
Well, those 4 are going to be at a haunted location, and I will be streaming their walkabout live.
Actually, Mickey G and Chat, she'll be there too. She's coming.
Mickey G and Chat will be there. So wow, there'll be 5 people you guys all know.
Yep.
Haunted House, midnight on my channel, midnight 11 Central this Saturday, and we'll watch them find some ghosts, I guess, or whatever they come across. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Fun.
Hit the like button, everybody, on your way out. I do appreciate you guys. Love y'all. Thanks for the support. Buy the books. Thanks for the super chats across the board. With that being said, I got to find the extra. I got it. I'm not Tex. Everybody.
See y'all.
Have a great night.